All righty, good afternoon. Welcome to House Judiciary Committee vote session. Mind you, everyone, we have to be back on the floor at 4, so let's get started. We're going to start with Senate Bill 1, and there is an amendment.
Move the amendment.
Is there a sec? Thank you. And an amendment packet went out to everyone, so you should have it. And we are 15 minutes delayed, so I'm hoping everybody's had a chance to review everything. On the amendment, Claire, can you explain what the amendment does?
The amendments require the Maryland Police Training and Standards Commission to develop a uniform policy requiring the use of identification by a law enforcement officer in the course of duty.
Thank you. Are there any questions on the amendment? All in favor of the amendment? Oh, Delegate Valentine.
The model policy, that would just, obviously that would just be effective for Maryland law enforcement, correct? That we can't do that for federal officers. Okay, thank you.
The amendments also require law enforcement officer to wear identification and verbally disclose identification on request while on duty, and establishes penalties for violation.
Delegate Conaway.
What law enforcement officers are we talking about? Go ahead. Go ahead, say it.
So the law enforcement officers under 3-535. And which would be on page 4 of the reprint. Law enforcement officer means a sworn member of a law enforcement agency. Law enforcement agency is also defined, meaning any law enforcement agency of the state, another state, a political subdivision of the state or another state, or the federal government.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? All right. Seeing none on the amendment, all in favor? All opposed? The motion carries. On the bill as amended.
Move as amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
On the bill as amended, are there any questions? Delegate Mangione, I can see your finger on, almost ready to press. You're good? Okay. On Delegate Valentine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I could just ask counsel, what was the penalty? I'm trying to find the penalty. Does it just say a civil offense? It's a civil offense? Okay.
Yes, civil fine.
Okay.
The biggest penalty that
It doesn't have any.
I just say guilty of a civil offense.
It's a fine of up to $1,500.
It's at section 7 under 5-3, excuse me, 3-536. Is that what we're talking about?
I think it's what, page
Oh,
5.
yeah. Page 7 of the reprint under section 5 under 3-536 D1, and it starts from there.
Yeah, and it's also on page 5. It's a civil offense for both violations.
All righty. Are there any other questions? Delegate Mangione?
Thank you, and I'm just looking, it says you can wear face coverings, I guess, medical masks, smoke, gas, hazardous conditions, underwater, religious garments, tactical safety gear, severe weather, undercover operations. What about situations where, I don't know, you have arrested a high-profile, maybe drug dealer? I mean, we see it. I know we're not, thank God, we're not as bad as some of the countries, maybe in Latin America. You see it all the time in news stories, movies, and they are covered up because of the dangers, the job almost 24/7 there. But if you've arrested a very high-profile, maybe gang member, drug dealer, there may be a situation that doesn't seem to fall under those categories of where that could happen, where an individual officer or team of officers would want to be concealing their identity.
Okay, so let's make sure I understand your question. So you're speaking of the section.
And maybe it's covered under undercover operations, but I mean,
Right.
that's already,
Yeah.
but
That's
it's
what I
already,
was
I mean, it may be a situation where, I'm just wondering if after the fact.
Okay, just as, I'm going to let Delegate Williams answer that.
Yeah, and there's also a section as well, it says protective gear worn during tactical operations.
Okay, there we go. Okay, that sounds like it covers that.
Yeah, I think that would cover that.
Okay, thank you.
Delegate Ericon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Were any of the amendments, did it change it to include, does it apply to our law enforcement, or is this only to federal law enforcement?
It applies to all.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yep. On page 3, under, yep, you got it? Okay. It's actually at section 3-535.
I'm on page 4 of the reprint.
Yeah, that's where it is.
Is that where it is? Okay, the law enforcement agency?
Under law, and law enforcement agency and law enforcement officer are defined there. Yep.
Okay, I see it now.
Okay.
This got wrong.
Do we have any other questions on Senate Bill 1? Delegate Arcon?
Sorry, what's the effective date of this?
The effective date is October 1, is that what I heard?
Okay.
Okay,
So it gives them some time. Okay.
all righty. Yes.
To create a policy, right?
Right. What does the speaker always say? Be nice. All right, seeing no questions, Delegate McComas.
I'm sorry, but how, okay, if you have a joint task force, all right, and you've got feds and you've got state and maybe you got some other folks from other states, how do we have authority to control at least the federal folks? I mean, because they may have different protocols for masks and all that stuff. And then on top of that, if let's say you're dealing with the gangs or something down that do drug stuff, or the mafia, I mean, if they can connect a face with a family, they'll take out a family. They won't have. I just don't understand how we can how the state of Maryland can control what the feds do if they're coming in on a joint task force thing.
Delegate Williams?
I was just going to say, I think we do this all the time when multiple agencies are working together, they're going to be working together collaboratively. And typically when that happens, there should be adhering to the laws that we have here in the state and in the way that they're proceeding with the work that they are doing here in the state of Maryland. So this bill applies to everyone across the board that is engaging in law enforcement activity here in the state of Maryland. And so that's the guise in which the feds would have to operate.
Delegate Conaway?
Thank you, Chair. I believe I read it in the newspaper today, but it's online. And I'm wondering if it's still accurate. The Maryland Sheriff Association is definitely against this bill. Is that still accurate?
It could be.
Yeah, I mean, there were some amendments done on the bill in the Senate side that addressed some of their concerns, such as the penalties, for an example. That's one of the reasons why the penalties was reduced and modified. to address their concerns with regards to that and the civil liability.
So with those changes or amendments, they're satisfied?
I don't know if they're 100% satisfied, but
So
some
we-
of their
we-
concerns were addressed.
So we haven't asked them their updated opinion? Is that what we?
I have not received one. I don't know if Madam Chair has received one.
No, I have not received an updated opinion. And I also want to just follow up with Delegate McComas's question, and that is that keep in mind that the goal of this bill is not a shall. This is, if I understand it correctly, that this will set up a uniform policy?
That's correct.
This will set up a uniform policy for law enforcement to use. So the real shall in here is that they set up the uniform policy, or they develop the uniform policy. Delegate McComas?
So so is it just going to be the state of Maryland, the training and certification going to decide this?
Yes, it's going to be the Maryland Police Training and Standards Commission.
Okay, well, what if they say, okay, and it's not a they shall, what if they say that a lot of the stuff in this is, they don't like it? Then what, if it's not a shall?
Then that's what next year's for. Seriously, I'm not trying to be funny, but all we're doing is telling them to develop the policy, the uniform policy, to be used by each law enforcement agency. We did this similar last year with some of our immigration bills, where we said have the AG come up with uniform policy language, because it is kind of unclear with respect to if there is a joint task force, or if there is a situation where you have federal agents telling state agents that they have to wear a mask or these type of uniforms. So we want to have the purpose of this bill is to create a uniform policy so that everybody's clear on what the policy is.
Well, okay, just hypothetically, what happens if the feds say, we don't like your policy, we're not going to help you, hasta la vista, baby? What happens then?
That's fine. This is not saying what the feds must do. That's not what this bill does.
I know, but we might want the feds,
And you know what?
and yet they're not going to play
And we
in
work with them.
our
I can assure
game.
I can assure you, we work with the feds on a regular basis. I mean, a lot.
I realize, but we're putting more regulations and more this and that, and it's a different administration, I'm just saying, and they may be impeached, come the next election, who knows? But I just think that setting something out with, I don't know, well, we all know where I'm
So
voting,
essentially what this bill does, if I may, Delegate Williams, I keep referring to Delegate Williams because she's the cross-file on this. Essentially what this bill does, as it is written and as I read it, is it brings everyone to the table to say, come up with a uniform policy. That's the way I read. It may be thick, it may be a lot, but that's the way I read it. Sure. All righty. Seeing no other indication of questions on SB 1, let's call the roll.
Senate Bill 1, Senator Augustine, Public Safety, Law Enforcement Officers, Prohibition on Face Coverings. The Vice Chair. The Vice Chair votes aye. Delegate Valentine. Delegate Valentine votes no. Delegate Embry. Delegate Embry votes aye. Delegate Cardin. Delegate Cardin votes aye. Delegate Phillips. Delegate Phillips votes aye. Delegate Congolo. Delegate Congolo votes no. Delegate Stinnett. Delegate Stinnett votes aye. Delegate Simmons. Delegate Simmons votes aye. Delegate Boucher is absent. Delegate McComas. Delegate McComas votes no. Delegate Moreno. Yes. Delegate Moreno votes aye. Delegate Archon. Delegate Archon votes no. Delegate Taylor. Delegate Taylor votes aye. Delegate Simpson. Delegate Simpson votes aye. Delegate Mangione. Delegate Mangione votes no. Delegate Moon. Delegate Moon votes aye. Delegate Conaway. Delegate Conaway votes no. Delegate Woods is excused. Delegate Williams. Yes. Delegate Williams votes aye. The tally is 11-6-0-1-1. The motion carries.
Thank you. We're going to move on to Senate Bill 180, Senator Sidnor, evidence interception. Thank you.
starting to get the hang of it now. I was having so much fun reading. Okay, so obviously the bill has been amended, and it is now a task force to study reforming the Maryland Wiretap and Electronic Surveillance Act. Claire, would you like to explain what the amendment does, or, I mean, it's pretty clear.
That's it.
Okay, that's what it does. Creates a task force, and all the members of the task force are listed, and there you are. Does anyone have any questions about the task force? Yes, Delegate Cardin.
Thank you very much. That sounded very, very Elvis of me. Thank you very much. I just wanted to comment that this has in the past been in my subcommittee. We've had discussions on it, and one of the few bits of consensus that we have had on the bill generally was that there should be a discussion about oral communications generally versus for this particular thing. So I don't know whether that is something that the task force is going to take up, but I just wanted to remark that, because I know this is your bill, and we did have a brief discussion on it this year, but in the previous years, we've had longer discussions. And one of the things that the former chairman had suggested to me is just broach the idea of, is this something that should be general? You know, I have some discomfort generally on this idea, but I'm open to the discussions. I just wanted to suggest that if there's going to be a task force, and the task force might want to just at least have that as a concept to discuss.
Thank you. What I heard on the record is that Delegate Cardin would like to be a member of the task force. Because on the end, on the last paragraph, I mean, the last page, you'll see what the task force is going to do, and it's actually in line with what you were just saying. That's why I said that. And it is intended to look at it broadly, generally, try to see what other states are doing, and make recommendations to the governor. So consider it. Okay? All right.
I vote against it, then you can't put me on a task force.
No, yes, I can. Delegate Arakan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My questions are kind of along the lines of what Delegate Cardin was just asking about the broad looking into, two-party consent. But to me, if that is what we're going to do, there's maybe some people on here who are missing. I don't see GOCAP in here. I feel like they would be an important person to include.
Why?
Because they represent, I guess, the governor's board of those who address crime.
So they essentially work on the grants and everything with crime, but it's not going to be just a crime study either, by the way. So keep that in mind. It's not just a crime. It could be, we're going to look at civil as well.
Right. Well, yeah, that's how, well, I guess it's kind of how it starts, but.
Yeah.
But the wiretap laws do have criminal penalties to them.
Right. And I'm not sure, but it is possible. It is very possible that we asked them, and it is very possible that they said that they had enough, that they said no.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
They were like, how many more can I be on?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I can feel that.
Yes.
I'm glad you voluntold Delegate Cardin.
Yes. In fact, I think we should amend the bill to put his name on it now, in here. Okay. All right. So are there any other questions regarding the task force? MAJ is a member,
And MHA.
as in the multi-housing,
Yep.
Maryland Multi-Housing Association at number 13.
They're going to want to be on they're going to
Yep.
certainly want to be on that.
Yep, they're at number 13.
Okay. Good. I'm actually trying to pull up the amended version.
Oh,
right now.
okay.
That's why
All
I was
right.
asking. Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
All righty. Are there any other questions on the amendment? All right. Seeing none, all in favor of the amendment, please raise your hands. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm like, come on, wake up, everybody. Okay, thanks. All opposed? All right. Okay, moving right along. That was Senate Bill 180 as amended. May I have a motion? All right. On Senate Bill 180 as amended, are there any questions? I think we kind of knocked them all out before because the amendment centrally is the bill now. All right, seeing none, please call the roll.
Senate Bill 180, Senator Sidner, Evidence, Interception of Oral Communications, Fair Housing Testing, the Vice Chair. Yes. The Vice Chair votes aye. Delegate Valentine. Delegate Valentine votes no. Delegate Embry. Delegate Embry votes aye. Delegate Cardin.
Explain my vote, no, I don't want to be on the task force.
Okay, but you can still vote for the bill. I won't put you on the task force. I won't put you on the task force. Look, I won't put you on the task force.
Delegate Cardin.
I don't trust you.
Delegate Cardin, could you repeat your vote?
I will vote yes.
Delegate Cardin votes aye and does not want to be on the task force. Delegate Phillips.
I do really believe in the two-party consent system, and so I have a really challenge with this, but I think the study of this activity to see if there are appropriate carve-outs to go beyond just testing for housing is appropriate.
Delegate Phillips votes in the affirmative. Delegate Congolo. Delegate Congolo votes no. Delegate Stinnett. Delegate Stinnett votes aye. Delegate Simmons. Delegate Simmons votes aye. Delegate Boucher is absent. Delegate McComas. Delegate McComas votes no. Delegate Moreno. Delegate Moreno votes aye. Delegate Archon. Delegate Archon votes no. Delegate Taylor. Delegate Taylor votes aye. Delegate Simpson. Delegate Simpson votes aye. Delegate Mangione. Delegate Mangione votes no. Delegate Moon. Delegate Moon votes aye. Delegate Conaway. Delegate Conaway votes aye. Delegate Woods is excused. Delegate Williams.
I'll vote aye for the task force.
Delegate Williams votes aye. The tally is,
And the chair votes aye for my own task force, please.
and the chair votes aye, bringing the tally to 13-5-0-1-1.
Great.
The motion carries.
Task force, yes. The task force lives, good. Okay. Let's move on to Senate Bill 322. There are no amendments. And second, okay, I hear an amendment, I hear a motion favorable and a second. Are there any questions? Delegate, the Vice Chair.
Delegate's fine. Madam Chair,
Yes.
is the bill sponsor receptive to an amendment to remove that section that we talked about to change the crimes that,
Under Title 8?
under title, I wrote it down. Section 2, number 4,
Right.
on line 19.
Thank you. Yes, the House bill sponsor is receptive to relieving the Senate bill the way it is, and he said there's always next year.
We try. Thank you, Madam
Thank
Chair.
you. Are there any other questions? All right, seeing none, please call the roll.
Senate Bill 322, Senator Sidner, Courts, Jury Service Disqualification, the Vice Chair. The Vice Chair votes aye. Delegate Valentine. Delegate Valentine votes no. Delegate Embry. Delegate Embry votes aye. Delegate Cardin. Delegate Cardin votes aye. Delegate Phillips. Delegate Phillips votes aye. Delegate Congolo. Delegate Congolo votes no. Delegate Stinnett. Delegate Stinnett votes aye. Delegate Simmons. Delegate Simmons votes aye. Delegate Boucher is absent. Delegate McComas. Delegate McComas votes no. Delegate Moreno. Delegate Moreno votes aye. Delegate Archon. Delegate Archon votes no. Delegate Taylor. Delegate Taylor votes aye. Delegate Simpson. Delegate Simpson votes aye. Delegate Mangione. Delegate Mangione votes no. Delegate Moon. Delegate Moon votes aye. Delegate Conaway. Delegate Conaway votes aye. Delegate Woods is excused. Delegate Williams. Delegate Williams votes aye. The tally is 12-5-0-1-1. The motion carries.
Thank you. We're going to go to Senate Bill 775. I'm skipping to the end. Senate Bill 775. Thank you. This is the gun back program. destruction of firearms. Are there any questions? There are no amendments. All right, seeing none, please call the roll.
Senate Bill 775, Senator Smith, Public Safety, Gun Buyback Programs, Destruction of Firearms. The Vice Chair. The Vice Chair votes aye. Delegate Valentine. Delegate Valentine votes no. Delegate Embry. Delegate Embry votes aye. Delegate Cardin.
Yes.
Delegate Cardin votes aye. Delegate Phillips. Yes. Delegate Phillips votes aye. Delegate Congolo. Delegate Congolo votes no. Delegate Stinnett. Delegate Stinnett votes aye. Delegate Simmons. Delegate Simmons votes aye. Delegate Boucher is absent. Delegate McComas. Delegate McComas votes no. Delegate Moreno. Delegate Moreno votes aye. Delegate Archon. Delegate Archon votes no. Delegate Taylor. Delegate Taylor votes aye. Delegate Simpson. Delegate Simpson votes aye. Delegate Mangione. Delegate Mangione votes no. Delegate Moon. Delegate Moon votes aye. Delegate Conaway. Delegate Conaway votes aye. Delegate Woods is excused. Delegate Williams. The tally is 12-5-0-1-1. The motion carries.
Thank you. We're going to move now to Senate Bill 791. Is there a second? Second. Thank you. Okay, on the amendments, Holly, would you mind explaining what the amendments do?
Sure. So the amendments start, the first amendment's technical, it's just purpose, paragraph, and a title change. And then if you go to page 2, line 19, covered individual, we're striking covered and replacing it with convicted individual, just to clarify. We don't change anything else there. That's as the Senate sent it over. So convicted individual means an individual who's been convicted of a felony under the laws of the state, an offense for which registration as a sex offender is required, an offense for which the individual was sentenced to a term of incarceration to be served at a state correctional facility, or an offense in another state for which the individual was sentenced to at least 5 years of incarceration and the individual completed at least 5 years of incarceration. And again, that's how the Senate sent it over. The only thing we're doing there is just making it now called convicted individual. The next amendment, you will see it starts at the bottom of page 3, line 19. We change covered to convicted again, and then we're going to take out under subsection B, Roman numeral 5. So go to page 4, Roman numeral 5. You'll see it says coerce, intimidate, or threaten an individual based on the actual or perceived citizenship or immigration status of the individual or any other person. That was applicable just to local correctional facilities. We are now making that applicable to state and local correctional facilities. So if you go to page 5, you'll see it's a new subsection D. There, a state or local correctional facility may not coerce, intimidate, or threaten. We've just moved that to its own subsection. And then the final changes are on the last page of the bill, page 8. You'll see we add a severability clause, and we also make the bill an emergency measure.
Absorb the amendments, and then if you would let me know if you have any questions. Delegate Archon.
Thank you. What is the, so I have a hard copy here. It doesn't look like it has any of your amendments in it. So I guess you guys sent us another amendment? It was emailed? Okay. Oh, I see it now. Okay, I've got it. Okay, and when does it, it's an emergency, so when is that, when does it go into effect?
Immediately from the signature.
It'll go into effect when the governor signs it.
Okay, I'll have more questions once I finish reading it. But.
Say that part again?
Well, it's just when 3/5 of the House voted and then the governor signed it.
Okay, yeah. So we have to have 3/5 of the House. Any questions? Yes, Delegate Valentine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did have one question, and it kind of goes back to some of the bills we had last year, and it's on page 5, line 4, which is section 2, and it has to do with the wording of the 48 hours. I think the intent, I'd like to clarify, the intent is when someone is, when one of these facilities notify, they give them at least 48 hours notice. But I know last year the wording was kind of confusing, and I see this wording is kind of confusing as well, where it could be, where the page or line 6 says, within 48 hours before the release of the individual. So that doesn't necessarily mean you're getting 48 hours notice. You're simply doing it within 48 hours of their release. So My question is, is the intent that we're going to give the federal agency or whatever agency 48 hours? I just want to make sure it's worded properly so that if that's the intent, like basically like it would say, active immigration detainer 48 hours before the release of the individual instead of within 48 hours of the release of the individual.
Delegate Moon, you want to respond?
Just my recollection briefly is that, so it's 48 hours before they're about to be released.
Correct.
And the reason for this is because there's a question about the constitutionality of holding someone beyond their judicially ordered term of confinement. And so this is to say, Elizabeth Embry is going to be released from prison on May 8th. You got 2 days to, we're giving you 2 days notice. Come get her on that date and time so that we don't have any problems.
Right, I understand that. I just want to make sure that we're giving them the 2 days. The way I'm talking.
It's not, it doesn't say that.
It doesn't say.
That is the practice.
So let me make sure I understand. So it says within 48 hours.
So that could.
So it could be less than. Yes, and
They
that's.
could literally call an agency 5 minutes before and they would be within that 48 hours. They could
But
literally give.
it is the practice. They're not gonna, ICE is like, all right, we're on our way and say, oh, it's 3:57, we had to let them go, so.
I just think it would be clear if we were going to, if the intent is to give them 48 hours, that it says we notify them 48 hours before. Not extending it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm merely stating they are given the 48-hour window. And if they're not there in 48 hours, that's on them.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, Delegate Valentine, and that is an important item. I will say that we did ask about this and ask the Senate why was it worded this way, and it goes with what Delegate Moon was saying, and that is that the consistency in the code, this consistency with the practice, and they were saying that this is the practice. So I agree with you for what it's worth. I do. I agree with you. I love words like within, no less than, because it always gives lawyers wiggle room. So I think I saw Delegate Conway, and then I'll go to Delegate Carter.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to be clear on what we're talking about. So we're talking about someone being released back into the public that may have a retainer waiting on them or a warrant for arrest, but ICE hasn't gotten there to pick them up yet within the 48 hours or within 3 days or within 4 days. Is that what we're talking about, releasing somebody? That's what we're talking about. Okay, thank you. I'm glad.
Delegate Carden?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I completely understand what you're saying. So here's the issue. If you do it the way that you're suggesting, though, and you say 48 hours, and they do it in 39 hours and 30 minutes, are they going to be in the hook for not complying with the law? So that would be the issue on the other side. So if you have to give them 48 hours, right, but you only give them 39 or 42 hours instead of 48. You call them, it was in the middle of the night, you waited until 8 o'clock in the morning to call the feds and let them know. Are you now on the hook for any kind of liability for not giving them enough notice? And so the question is, so giving them that, so I'm looking, I happen to agree with you that we want to make sure they're giving them 48 hours. I happen to agree. It seems as if all the prisons want to do this, so they're going to give the 48 hours. But if they don't, then why shouldn't we make sure that we're not going to get the prisons in trouble for waiting a few hours? That would be my concern. Did you understand? Does that make sense, Madam Chair?
I thought you made a very good argument, and so now I'm going to hear Delegate Valentine's response.
I could see where this might be an issue in our detention centers where releases can be done a lot quicker. But from a state facility, they know exactly when that release date is. So I don't see where it would be an issue where they would run into that 39 hours because they're going to know days in advance. If you're being released from a state correctional facility, it's not like someone just posted bond or someone was getting out because of another reason at a local facility, I think they're going to know a hard release date, and they can simply just.
Totally agree. But then.
Make that notification.
Staffer, Officer Smith at the prison forgot to make the call. So his supervisor realizes it and says, oops, we have to release him at this time, or we fall out. But you forgot to call them with 48 hours notice. Now we're down to 41 hours notice. Still, do we call them and then be like, oh yeah, and then they're gonna say, wait a minute, you didn't give us enough time, we're not gonna get there. And then we get sued for not giving them information. I'm wondering, I don't know if that would be the case, but I just am thinking that if they're gonna do it anyway, as Delegate Moon said, and they wanna do it, and we want them to do it, and everybody actually agrees that this is what's gonna happen, then why shouldn't we give them flexibility to bear with the language? That's what I'm saying, I guess.
Delegate Valentine, okay. Delegate Arcon.
I just don't so how in that scenario, what's the path to remedy for the federal government? To sue the state in state court for a state law that the state violated itself?
I don't know.
Well, keep in mind, it could also be.
Is that a thing?
Hold on. It could
I mean,
also,
is that a real thing?
it could also be the individual.
The individual
could sue
because ICE wasn't able to collect them?
No, because the law says, listen, criminal law, hold on. Many cases have been won on a technicality.
Okay.
Right? And so this could be considered a technicality for a individual if they wanted to argue that it says you're supposed to pick me up in 48 hours, you didn't, you picked me up in 36 or whatever, that's a technicality.
But it would be going the other direction. So I hear how that's a technicality, but it would be to the benefit of the detainee. So I don't see how a detainee would say or why they would end up in court and say, I was unlawfully detained and then transferred because they didn't. But that this is not a right for the detainee to have 48 hours notice. This is just a right for ICE to have 48 hours notice. It really doesn't get into any rights around the detainee themselves, and there's no violation of the detainee's rights unless they're held past when they were supposed to be released. But this piece of the law doesn't touch on that at all.
But I can see, I'll tell you honestly, the way I can see a scenario where if I had a case, I would still argue that the person did not follow criminal procedure. And that part of the criminal procedure was you were supposed to hold me for 48 hours, you let me go in 36 hours. There was a bus crash, I got hurt. Hey, look, my family members go, I sue for wrongful death. I mean, I'm just going down the thing. Because you were asking
scenario
who could
isn't
sue.
Possible. That's not.
You were asking who could sue, and I was just giving.
Yeah, that just wouldn't be possible with the way this is structured. Even if we adopted his amendment, the benefit is all to the detainee. It doesn't say that he would not even, or she would not even know at what point they were called. He's not entitled to some kind of 48-hour waiting window in any way. This does not give him that right in any way. A judge would be like, that is not relevant to this case. Thank you so much.
Well, I'm going to concede because I was just giving you a hypothetical to answer your question on who would sue. But what I will do is I will concede because of time, and I was really just making something up. Okay, but I'm going to go to.
So are we going to edit it?
So no. I meant concede with my answer with your scenario. That I'm not going to edit it here. I'm not going to change the within here. However, if someone can convince me at another time, then perhaps I would accept it as an amendment. Perhaps. Delegate Williams, did you have a?
No, I'm good.
Well, if there's a. Calling on me?
Yeah, I'm getting ready. Okay, I'm going to go to Delegate Phillips. Sure, yep. Did you finish, Delegate Arca? I got more stuff, but you can spice it up. Okay. Delegate Phillips?
Yeah, so the bill is, needless to say, changed from the bill that was introduced as a cross-file of the bill. And it seems to me that we have opened this up to more individuals potentially being in this covered persons or convicted, well, covered persons. And I know we changed the language. We talk about what the judicial warrant does not include, but then we add back in the language on 41205.
Delegate Phillips, I never thought I'd see the day when I'd say, could you speak a little louder?
Okay. That's interesting, yes. But no. So the language is at, what page is that? 3 of 8, lines 6 and 7. And the whole, well, part of the concept originally was to get rid of administrative, kind of the idea that you could be caught up and then ultimately deported for an administrative warrant as opposed to a judicial warrant. And so that's just a substantial change in what we originally, and I just wanted to make sure we noted that. My sense is that there was quite a bit of negotiation on the Senate side, and I don't want to hold anything up, but that is concerning. I think we also expanded with some of these definitions, those that would get caught up in this web. For those individuals who may have been incarcerated many, many years ago and may not have a detainer, based on this language, I think they get caught up in this as well. Is Delegate Moon or Holly, can you tell me?
The Chair of Delegate Moon, but covered individual, if you go to page 2, paragraph 4, covered individual does not speak on any of the detainer language that you're speaking on. That immigration detainer language is actually only in one place in the bill. It's page 5, back to the 48 hours. That is only in page 5, paragraph 2. That's the only time it refers to that immigration detainer language. All of the local, right now, all of the local correctional facilities, it doesn't, if you look at, it doesn't. So if you're going to look at page 3, subsection B, none of those provisions, prohibitions, none of that reference what you're talking about.
And that's, okay.
If that helps.
That does.
Okay. So the Senate, when it came over,
So
they
if I'm in
changed it.
okay, so if I'm in a local facility, that language does not apply.
Exactly. When the Senate sent it over, they parsed out the state, where the state is only applicable in that one subpart, the 48 hours.
48 hours.
Because they wanted to focus on local detention facilities where the majority of these individuals are being held.
Okay.
And so it's most of the bill now is all local correctional facilities, except the 48 hours and that course of piece on page 5, subsection D, the coercing, imitating, threatening, that was taken out of the subsection B.
Okay.
I don't see any more questions. Delegate Archon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, so I got a couple things. In here, we talked a lot about the detainer process, but then at the same time, it's saying that they have to have judicial warrants. Detainers aren't judicial warrants. So could Holly just tell me what are the situations where the immigration detainers, the I-205s, when are those triggered and when are only the judicial warrants required? What's the difference there?
So this will go back to what Delegate Phillips was just asking about. So subsection B you're going to see where it talks about the judicial warrants, and that's where the references are in subsection B. So you'll see,
Right.
that's where it talks about convicted individual, and then you're going to see here, our local correctional facility may not. This is all where judicial warrant has to be, for example, Roman numeral 2, 3, at the request of a federal immigration authority unless a valid judicial warrant. All of the judicial warrant parts are here.
Okay.
The only part that uses subsection that uses immigration detainer is going to be, again, back on page 5, paragraph 2, related to the state correctional facility.
Okay, so the state correctional can use immigration detainers only. They don't require any kind of judicial warrant. And then all local law enforcement, and does that include, there was some stuff in here about Baltimore City detention. Does that include or exclude them?
So local correctional facility includes, they wanted to make sure that that was in Baltimore City and the, was included under local correctional facility.
Okay, so all local plus Baltimore City.
Yeah, and right now, that subsection, from what I was told and what I understand, that paragraph 2 on page 5 about the 48 hours, that's being done now state and locally. They're just codifying it for the state part.
Okay, okay.
But that's already what is happening now from what we were told and understand. But yeah, so then the state references, as I mentioned before, it's only in that paragraph 2 for the 48 hours and the coercion, intimidation, threat, and peace.
Okay, okay. And then my next question is on the place of birth. On page 3, line 26, it says that they can't inquire or investigate an individual's citizenship and immigration status or place of birth. But then on page 4, line 15, it says that nothing in this subsection shall prevent a local correctional facility from inquiring about information that's material to a routine booking procedure. That is part of routine booking. So that would seem very contradictory. Routine booking automatically includes, they always ask you where you're born, like I would say Houston, Texas. So part of that is to confirm your identity, to make sure that you are the Susan Smith born in Houston, Texas. So on page 3, we say you can't, and then on page 4, we say, just kidding, you can. Is that intentional?
That's how it came over from the Senate, so I would say it's.
Okay. Well, they do funny things sometimes.
So I would point out too, if you look at B1, that's where you have the convicted individual marked out, so 2-1 would fall under that. That's not applicable to the definition of convicted individual there on B2, Roman numeral 1, because if you look at B1, paragraph 2.1, 2.3, and 2.4, it doesn't apply to any convicted individuals. And then if you go back, convicted individuals is defined, again, back on the page, page 2.
Okay, so let me make sure I understand this. Okay, so
Sure.
we've changed it to convicted individuals. So this is okay, so if the person's already convicted, then they can investigate their place of birth regardless of whether or not it's part of their.
If they fall under the definition in, on page 2, paragraph 4, if they fall under the definition of convicted individual, an individual's been convicted of those things.
Okay.
B2, Roman numeral 1, B2, Roman numeral 3, and B2, Roman numeral 4 do not apply to them. Local our correctional facilities can still do what they are doing.
So, okay, so they're, okay. So if they run the back, okay, here's the scenario that I keep thinking of in my head. We get somebody in, those questions would be, we wouldn't know yet if they had been convicted because we actually asked those questions first to figure out who they are. Then we would run the check to see had they been convicted. So we wouldn't even know, are they a convicted individual or what was a covered individual until we did the stuff on page 4, line 15, that's a routine booking procedure. So the routine booking procedure would happen first before we would ever know that they were a convicted person. Does that make sense? Why does that not make sense to you?
It's intake
Mike?
at prison versus intake at a local jail.
It doesn't really matter either way, both
But
locations.
if they're checking in for their sentence to a prison, they're in a different posture than someone who just might have been.
This is the local
For a local,
correctional.
the locals have people pretrial as well as for
Yeah.
their 6-month sentence or whatever.
Right. So this section of the code references the local correctional facility, not the state. We're in the local section now. So the locals are not supposed to inquire as to a place of birth unless the person is a convicted individual, which used to be the covered individual on page 3. But that would be impossible for them to know without
Well, they
doing.
could have priors.
It would be impossible for them to know without doing the routine booking, though, because that's how they know who the person is when they go to book them into the system.
Only some of them will have convictions at the time they're booked initially at a local jail. If they have not yet faced trial for whatever they're being booked for, then all you're looking for is their priors.
Correct. I'm just saying, how would you avoid asking routine booking questions to figure out if the person's covered or not covered, or convicted or not convicted? To know who the person is.
The first question is, do they have a conviction? And you can ask that without asking about their status. If you to figure out that they do have a conviction, then in fact, you can start asking about their status.
So the way that your scenario would work is that we would collect an individual at a crime scene, let's say. We caught them there. We brought them in. They don't have any documentation on their person. So in order to book them, we ask a series of questions about who they are to try and confirm their identity. Before we get even to the point of being able to confirm conviction, we have to know who they are.
If they're booked for shoplifting.
Correct.
There's not going to be a reason to ask them their citizenship status in this bill. When you book them and you, however, see that they're a convicted child rapist, you'll say, oh, that's a covered individual. Now you can start asking questions about.
Got it. I'm not talking about their citizenship status at all. I don't care about that part. I'm only worried about their origin of birth, which is also part of routine booking. So in Maryland, routine booking and all over the world, and certainly the country, routine booking includes asking someone where they were born.
Well, it says material to routine booking, I'll say. It's just to be very clear and legalistic about it. It doesn't say that it's included.
Let's definitely be legalistic.
In booking, it says that it's material to.
Right. So the
think
suggestion would be to change routine booking in some way in Maryland as opposed to other
I would just suggest that
states?
it's immaterial in that regard.
Except for it's to confirm identity. So
It could be.
there's many
Your driver's
people with
license
similar
might
names,
confirm
correct?
that.
But the person is collected without a driver's license. That's my point. If they don't have any documentation on them, they're brought in, they're asked a series of questions to figure out who they are. Before we know if they have ever been charged or convicted of a crime, we need to know who they are. In order to ascertain who they are, we ask them, what is your name? Where were you born? What is your birthday? Do you understand the question? Those are very basic questions. Yeah, super basic questions.
The way it's phrased, it's asking whether it's material to the booking, and it doesn't actually say anything about the citizenship status.
Nope,
Those words.
not citizenship.
No, I'm saying, but whatever, birthplace or any of that.
Birthplace is it. That's all they ask. They don't ask about citizenship in routine booking.
I'm just saying.
They don't care at all.
That question about birthplace the word birthplace does not appear in this law. You would have to interpret that into that
Place of
part of
birth
the law. The other
appears right
part
here.
of the prohibition we're talking about, though, very specifically says not to make the ask. So if you're doing statutory interpretation and they're conflicting, the one that's more explicit would prevail over the part that's not explicit.
You could see how, though, somebody.
I understand what you're saying.
This is.
I understand what you're saying.
Directly contradictory for the guy on the ground who's like, I don't know who this person is. They came with no documentation. I need to figure out what their name is and who they are. And
I understand
their name
your question.
is Stephen Smith. You know, there's a million of them. How do I figure out which Stephen Smith this is? I ask for their birthday and where they were born, and then I run that through the system. Ah, look at that, they've been convicted of 4 child sex crimes. Do you know what I mean? That's the order of operations, typically.
I understand the question
Yeah.
you're raising. I guess I don't see it as creating as many problems as you do.
Well, I'm just, my point is that there will be, if we are to assume or to send the message out to the public that this is going to stop them from asking place of birth questions, this bill will not do that at all. There will be a place of birth question every single time someone is booked.
Every single, I don't know that place of birth is actually material to a booking process. If I have my license, let's say that not somebody that doesn't come with, right? If I have my license, they're just looking for my name and my address.
Place of birth is always asked.
No, not place of birth.
We'll pass it over to the gentleman who's worked in the department.
Okay, Delegate.
And we're not asking about citizenship, and that's an important thing.
Right. Delegate.
Right. And as long, so I think as long as.
Hold on. Delegate Valentine, can you just give us clarity on the booking process, if you have it in your head?
Yep.
Thank you. And then we'll go back to Delegate Phillips. Just if you could answer that question, let him finish his thought. Delegate Valentine and then Williams.
Thank you,
And then
Madam Chair.
Phillips.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For clarification, state or country or where you were born is asked. It's just part of the normal booking procedure. You're not asked, are you a citizen? There is a difference. And it goes on the fingerprint cards. It's on every arrest sheet I think I've ever filled out for the last 30 years. And it's simply, U.S., Mexico, Canada, wherever, it doesn't matter. And that's just a form, and it goes on your fingerprint cards, but it's not to determine whether or not you're a U.S. citizen or not. That's the difference.
Thank you. And so I guess that's where I was going, Madam Chair. The question, if it's routine, even in this, would be appropriate. It's the follow-on question about citizenship that would be inappropriate under this. Okay. Okay.
And if someone is here with if someone is here and their citizenship is in question, then it could be argued, and I think this is where Delegate Leader Moon was going, that inquiring about or place of birth could be considered a material question, and therefore in violation of Section 3(1). Delegate Cardin?
That's all right. I think you answered all my questions. I was going to say that, thank you, so I just got a note as to whether is there an exemption for routine booking questions? And
That's what I thought.
so the fact that there's
Yeah.
an exemption.
That's what I
for it.
remembered in law school. Delegate, can we get Delegate Embry to answer that, please?
I'm sorry, I was just echoing the point David made, that, we actually have it written. I know we've said it, but I think this clearly, the reason not to take out the question about place of birth, I think is because we want to limit it only to the routine booking, which I think it does, because it says nothing in the subsection changes the routine booking questions. But we wouldn't want them to inquire about place of birth outside of that booking procedure. So that's why I think the structure makes sense.
It's not, so if I can just ask, then I guess, Delegate Embry, so it seems as if you can ask that in the routine booking procedure, but if you didn't need to for the routine booking for whatever reason, maybe there was already, fingerprint card was already done or whatever it is, then you wouldn't be able to ask that as a side and then somehow say, well, because it was in the routine booking, now we can ask it. It's exempted out for that purpose, but only for that purpose.
Nothing in the subsection shall prevent a local correction facility from inquiring about information that is material to a routine booking procedure. To me, that covers what we're talking about.
Okay, great. So I think we answered the questions.
Okay, Delegate Archon?
Yeah, that was what I figured. So but it'll still be asked every single time, and this actually isn't restricted at all. But that's, I don't care. I'm just trying to point out that that's contradictory. So on page 5, D1, it looks like we're now creating a civil action opportunity, but it doesn't say, does it, so help me, Holly, this allows the, okay, so the Attorney General or an individual who has experienced a violation of, it says this section, but how far back are we going with this section? Like what are the potential violations here? And then.
That's this whole section on 8-805.
Oh, the entire, okay, the whole 8-805, the new, okay. Okay, and so what's the potential opportunity here is, it just says injunctive relief. Do we have any concept of what that will include?
So
It would be
court
stop
order
doing
and-
that.
well,
Temporary, preliminary, and permanent injunctive relief.
Okay,
And so it would have to be for something that's ongoing. This isn't for something that happened in the past.
okay, that was kind of what
Yeah.
yeah, thank you, like kind of a
Okay.
mind reader, yeah.
Doing this, and if you do it again, then
Yeah.
people can be held in contempt.
Okay, oh, I got it, okay, I was trying to think, so this is not them suing the county for financial
Money damages.
benefits, this is just to stop the events from occurring repeatedly or
At probably that
whatnot.
correctional facility. So it's probably, they know something's happening and then they're telling them, don't do that, please stop. And
Gotcha. Okay, so there could be a potential where a facility is still asking the citizenship question, and they could tell their attorney, and then that's where the injunctive relief comes in. Okay, all right, that helps me clear up that. This may not be my last question, but it is for right now. I see Delegate Valentin.
Okay, let me go to Delegate Moreno. You've had,
Yeah, so Delegate Phillips introduced an amendment, but then we just kind of went from it about covered individuals and ICE detainers.
I didn't introduce an amendment, but I was just discussing it.
Oh, you were
But
just.
I'm open.
Oh, I thought you were amending. I thought you were, no, it sounded like you added an amendment and then Eric Hand started asking questions and I was like, wait, was there? I don't know. I thought you were confusing that, yeah.
okay, so that was your question?
Yeah.
You're good? Okay, Delegate Valentine, because we're cutting close on time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to ask counsel about the very last page, the 5-201.1. Why the information about the district court commissioner? What does that pertain to? Why is that language in? I don't remember seeing that earlier. As to what they're trying to accomplish with putting that in the bill.
This is on the last
very
page,
last
page 8, the last section, 5-201.1.
So this was added in over in the Senate, and it is allowing the district court commissioner or the judge to consider the immigration detainer when determining whether to authorize pretrial release or set bond or bail. They're already considering this, but I guess they wanted to codify it. I don't. Clarify. Yeah, clarify when they're charged with a felony. Yeah. But it's not necessary because they do that. Yeah.
Leader Moon.
I was just going to.
Hold on. I promise you, I will call him. Leader Moon.
Just some added context on that. From what I understood in the Senate, there was some concern about the fact that this bill deals with people and convictions who have been convicted. And so there was a whole question about pretrial and whether some of these people might be released into the community if we're only dealing with convictions. And so this language came in to suggest that, look, that if you're being considered for release, it's going to be, they will be able to know that you have this status.
To not let you out. Thank you.
Hold.
Bill.
I think they should. Delegate McComas.
Just real quick.
Hold on, Delegate McComas.
The fact that it says authorize for a defendant charged with a felony or set the bond with felony. In other words, if there's no felony, they don't get into that at all because it's a misdemeanor. In other words, because we've said felony and not anything about misdemeanor, they don't have that authority. I just want to know if that's correct thought.
Question to do, again, this
Hold on, you all.
section isn't necessary well, I get what Delegate Moon is saying. The judges are going to do this or the judges and district court commissioner are going to do this anyway. This is just clarifying and making it more clear that that's an ability that they have.
So they could, it's a person, they could keep them misdemeanor. Is that what you're saying?
They don't have to consider it and they could keep them, yeah. I mean, it's up to their discretion, but I mean, they're going to,
okay.
Again, they do this already, so this section isn't, yeah, I'll defer to
Okay.
chair. I'm going to defer to
I
chair.
just wondered if it was just because it's spelled out like that, it's limited to felony.
I think it goes back to what Delegate Moon was saying. They wanted to make sure with the conviction, it's clear that that's an option, but it's not closing it.
Okay, all right.
If that makes, does that
Okay,
help?
all right, thank you.
Okay, the lights are still lighting. Okay, Delegate Taylor, if you're quick.
Yeah, I think I'm quick. On page 3, line 19, and it's saying everything, well, paragraphs 2, 1, 3, 4, and 5 of this subsection does not apply to covered individual. This part is kind of confusing me. And it also mentions birth, yeah, so just.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So first, Roman numeral 5 is no longer in subsection B. That's going to now live on page 5 under its own subsection D. And that is applicable to both state and local correctional facilities now. So number 5 is all by itself, and state and local correctional facilities can't do that at all. The coercing, intimidating, or threatening an individual based on the actual or perceived citizenship or immigration status of the individual or any other person. So 5 is out of subsection B entirely. Now you have 1, 2, 3, and 4. Paragraph 1 of subsection B says that 1, 3, and 4 does not apply to a convicted individual. The only parts that apply to the convicted individual, or to everybody, is 2. So if you look at 1, 3, and 4, if you're a convicted individual, it doesn't matter. They can do all of those things. If you're not a convicted individual, or if you're a convicted individual, you can't do 2 at all. The local correctional facility can't do number 2. You can't detain or prolong the detention of an individual for the purpose of investigating the individual's citizenship or immigration based on suspicion that the individual has committed a civil immigration violation or at the request of federal immigration authorities unless presented with a valid judicial warrant. So number 2, you can't do that for anyone, convicted or not. And the other ones are all convicted, if that helps.
That helps, thanks.
Delegate Archon.
Okay, so it says in this kind of the same area, sorry, I'm looking at the paper copy that's kind of older plus the digital copy. So over here in that same section of what you can't do with non-covered convicted individuals, so that would be anybody who essentially doesn't have a felony, basically. It says you can't notify federal, this is on page 4 of 8 of the last reprint, notify immigration authorities that an individual is in custody unless required by a valid court order or judicial warrant. And
If you're convicted, that applies.
yes, if you're convicted, it applies. This is for people that are not considered convicted individuals. So somebody who maybe is being charged with murder but has not been convicted with murder. So if that happens and they're brought into a local jail, then the local jail is not permitted to tell immigration that they have this person in custody, but who a jail has in custody is public information, isn't it?
No.
So if an individual has on arrest, that goes into NCIS.
Right.
On conviction, it
NCIS.
goes into CJIS. So there will be a notification, and there's no way to stop the notification because that's a normal process.
Okay, so yeah, that was what I was going to ask, because I know I was not thinking, well, usually when you're come in custody, it's because you've been charged with something. So if they charge somebody, it goes into NCIS or.
NCIC.
NCIC, excuse me,
yeah.
NCIC.
We're
I'm
watching,
getting my-
we're
I'm
watching
getting-
too much daytime
Too much, I
drama.
know.
Yeah, too much daytime dramas for us.
Yeah, too much stuff.
So that's
there
when
is
they're charged.
right, the database, there is a charge goes into a federal
Right,
database.
so then that doesn't really, this will not actually do anything, because as soon as you're charged, you go into that database. ICE is also a member of the database, so they'll see it immediately. Okay,
They may.
It could also go into the JIS in Maryland.
say it again?
It can also go into JIS. I think that when
Do
you,
we do charges and sieges?
yeah, I mean,
Oh, we do charges and CJIS
I
also?
look it up all the time.
Fingerprint. So
The
as soon as
fingerprint,
it's
that's
booked,
right.
You go into
That's right.
CJIS, as soon as
I
you're
may have
charged.
gotten that wrong. It may be NCIC that's on the conviction.
I think it's both.
Or both.
I think when you're booked, you go into both, right?
State and federal.
Yeah, you're going to both.
So it automatically goes into both on charging?
At booking.
At booking, that is what I thought.
At
So that's why I
fingerprints.
was wondering, why would we even include that? It's not really, yeah.
Page 4.2, they added that in, entering information into the National Crime Information Center.
Okay,
Where you were looking
so-
for
okay,
material
yeah.
to the routine booking, that is part of the booking and it's in the bill.
Okay, and you said it's on page 4. Oh, shoot, that's 3. I was on page 4 on line 5, and you're saying it's down here lower. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, that's my question. So that was my point, like, how would we avoid, like, that's why I just don't know why we've put stuff like that in there, since it's not, it's essentially automatically void. I mean, it actually isn't, it just doesn't add anything to the bill. I always question why we add things in that don't actually, are unenforceable and don't add anything substantive to the bill, because there's just a lot of contradictions, I think, in this bill that are going to make some of these things not applicable. That's my last one for this moment.
Delegate Marino?
For clarification, so if someone's not convicted, can someone still have an ICE detainer issued if corrections or a sheriff or other law enforcement officer makes ICE aware that the person's been arrested? Or maybe they look at NCIC? Holly, can you clarify? Okay, so if someone is not convicted, so it's kind of related to what we were just talking about, can that individual still have an ICE detainer issued by corrections, or if a sheriff relays that information or law enforcement relays that information to ICE? Do you know?
So you're asking if someone is not convicted,
Yeah,
whether or
not, because we were
they
talking
can
about
still-
like covered individuals being people that are not convicted.
No, covered individuals are convicted. That
So,
Oh,
Yeah,
right, so,
okay.
yeah. If you're not convicted, then you doesn't
Okay.
apply to you.
Okay.
But couldn't,
Do we have
the
any-
question was, could a detainer still be generated from that? The answer is, yeah, detainer could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not under this bill.
But it just.
Not under this law.
Yeah, it's unrelated. The
Yeah.
Fed can- the Fed can-
Totally different law.
The Fed can-
Yep, totally different law.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Delegate Leader Moon.
I just want to clarify this dynamic that you're talking about here. There is a difference if the counties are going out of their way to let ICE know who everyone is that's coming through their front door versus ICE generically has the ability to go in and look themselves. Much of the debate has been about whether they're using discretion or not. And the change in policy that has happened in the last year is that they are vastly not using discretion anymore. It just seems to be a fire hose of decision-making just to sweep everyone in. So I guess that's part of what's going on here. ICE could get access to not just people in prison, but you're right, all of the facilities and look at who's there if they wanted to. They could do that with the aim of selecting people who they think are dangerous versus there for something petty or what have you. But again, the policy, part of the policy shift here is whether we want our counties to be in the business of proactively just sending all of their people that they touch, again, not with a conviction, but just letting ICE know immediately that someone's even come through their front door. And I guess this would stop that reality from happening.
I mean, it seems like this legislation enforces the anti-commandeering doctrine, correct? Like, you can't have two masters. You either have the federals are your boss or your county or municipality is your boss, right? So. Erica?
That's a true statement, kinda, sorta. Okay, Delegate Arkin, I thought you said you were done. Okay, all right, Delegate Arkin.
This is a complex bill, and I just want to make sure that we're not passing something that's going to end up being very confusing on the ground when one part of the bill says you can't do this, and the other part of the bill says, just kidding, we know you do this every day. But it's now, that's maybe the third example of that in this bill where it self-contradicts. So what I understand, if I understand what Leader Moon was talking about, and I get what the goal is, he is worried that ICE is being called indiscriminately on people who are, otherwise mostly lawful people who have made what he or others would consider small infractions and should not raise to the level of deportation or putting them at risk of deportation. I definitely understand where he's coming from, but I just want to make sure that we know, to me, it feels like this bill is actually targeting specifically Montgomery County, because what other counties like mine were doing was the 287G program. That screened 100% of people that came in. It was everybody. We didn't care what you sounded like, what you looked like, what your hair looked like, none of that stuff. Everybody got the same screening questions when you came in through 287G. What Montgomery County has been doing, however, is a handshake MOU. And that is totally different than what 287G was. That is not screening everybody. That is, in fact, profiling people who they believe to be here illegally and reporting those people to ICE. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, if we wanted to make sure that that stuff wasn't happening, the handshake MOUs were actually what we needed to get at, not the programs that were sort of across the board applied and had no way of targeting people one way or the other, because they were applied to everyone regardless of their, origin of birth, their gender, or what they looked or sounded like. So I just want to make sure that's the model we're actually going after here, is the targeting of people, model. And so I guess mostly this bill will accomplish ending the Montgomery County policies.
It targets both models, though, because you're doing it for everybody, then you're doing the federal government's job.
Well, yeah, our model never did that. So my point is that we've already had the 287G program removed from my county, so we don't have a policy in place. The only counties that still on this day will be impacted directly and restricted are counties that didn't have 287G and had their own separate methods that no one knows about. The only county I know that did that was Montgomery County.
As well.
I think theirs was not just handshake, though. They actually
No, they did an MOU.
Yeah, there was an actual MOU. Theirs was not in writing.
Yeah.
Delegate Moon, are you?
So, I hate to just let that one go. I totally disagree with that characterization of what's going on here. I mean, I actually think it's quite the opposite. This is trying to create a statewide standard out of what currently is a patchwork of county discretion. And it's not just Montgomery, and Montgomery might have been a new development, in the last few years, but just as soon as we had passed the other bill regarding 287 just weeks ago, we had multiple counties, actually, I think they were down here doing a presser, talking about how they were going to start all adopting these sorts of voluntary agreements. In fact, going out of their way to not have a controlled program like you're talking about, but to just send daily arrest records of people coming through for, traffic infractions, again, not convicted, and what have you. So just so that people understand what this amended and bill now will be doing, it's creating a statewide standard. Every single county, wherever you are in the state, if you are committing and convicted of one of these serious offenses, a felony or a sex offense, ICE is going to be notified upon the release. So we are making a guarantee out of that targeting of the violent and serious criminals that everybody's been saying they're doing. This bill actually makes that a reality.
Okay, yeah, okay, so I'll just, I think I understand now. So now we are now going to include, so Montgomery County will be limited in their ability to cooperate outside of this scope, but a county like
All of them
Prince,
will.
Yeah, like Prince George's County, who was letting people go even if they had what would be today a convicted person, now they'll be required to participate, essentially required to participate. Is that was the goal, was to include counties that weren't participating and make them participate, and then the ones that were kind of just going off and doing their own thing, make everybody participate the same way.
If you're coming out of a prison now in Maryland, there's a mandatory notification that's happening to ICE.
Okay.
And so the most serious offenses, over 18 months, felony,
right.
Sex offense, ICE is going to get notified that you're coming out of prison and come get this person.
And then my other question really is, in terms, you mentioned counties who are like going to give their arrest records. That information is public information.
ICE can get it. Again,
I know ICE, but I'm just saying, like, I could also just go and get that information. I can pull the sheet for everybody that was logged in today.
I mean, this is exactly the point, though. From day one of this discussion, this has not been about impeding immigration enforcement. It's about how much should the state and county governments be using their resources to do ICE's job for them. ICE could always, at any time, have gotten all of this information, gotten these people. They can do that. This bill is about how much we're going to do to facilitate that.
Okay.
And so, yes, with this bill, we are asking the counties to stop on both ends of the agreement. So they're not just going to be willy-nilly coming up with these policies. Oh, we're going to send every traffic ticket over to ICE. The bill steers the state's eye towards the serious crimes, felonies, sex crimes, convictions over 5 years in another state, convictions over 18 months in Maryland. All of these people will go and have an ICE notification.
And then there's nothing in the bill that could be construed to restrict the public's access to any information about arrests in their county. Nothing in here would prevent a county, like an individual in the county, from going to their sheriff's office and saying, I would like a list of everybody that was brought in today. It's public information. I want a copy of it. There's nothing that in here that restricts that ability.
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Delegate Phillips, yep. Because we still have some more voting to do.
Okay. I can do that too. I just want to make sure we're the whole purpose of the bill was to take those individuals, particularly those individuals who were not in what we originally called covered or convicted, and allow them a level of due process. Because what has been happening is individuals potentially for minor convictions, their names have been shared with ICE, and they may be picked up and deported before they've ever had an opportunity to have their case heard here. Case potentially dismissed, whatever, right? There is no due process that is taking place in many of these instances today. And so while we're talking about a lot of things, much of this is about due process. And in our Constitution, we do not distinguish, particularly when it comes to the judicial system, between a person who is a citizen or a non-citizen. And so I just want to take us back to, we want to give people their opportunity to be heard, tried, and if we determine that they should not be incarcerated, to then be released. I just wanted to get back to that.
Thank you. Would you like to move the amendment?
Move the amendment.
All right, all in favor of the amendment, please raise your hands. All right, all opposed, please raise your hands. The amendment is adopted. is there a second on the bill as amended? I'm sorry, what was that? A question? Okay, Delegate Archon?
I'd like to use my hold on this bill.
Unfortunately, you can't. It's an emergency bill, and I already said that we don't hold emergency bills.
That's
But
very
thank you.
convenient that it was designed like that.
Are there any other questions? All right, seeing none, please call the roll, and please do not leave. We still have concurrences. Please call the roll.
Senate Bill 791, Senator Lamb, Correctional Services and Public Safety, Immigration Enforcement, Prohibitions, the Community Trust Act. The Vice Chair. The Vice Chair votes aye. Delegate Valentine. Delegate Valentine votes no. Delegate Embry. Delegate Embry votes aye. Delegate Cardin. Delegate Cardin votes aye. Delegate Phillips. Delegate Phillips votes aye. Delegate Congolo. Delegate Congolo votes no. Delegate Stinnett. Delegate Stinnett votes aye. Delegate Simmons. Delegate Simmons votes aye. Delegate Boucher is absent. Delegate McComas. Delegate McComas votes no. Delegate Moreno. Delegate Moreno votes aye. Delegate Archon. Delegate Archon votes no. Delegate Taylor. Delegate Taylor votes aye. Delegate Simpson. Delegate Simpson votes aye. Delegate Mangione. Delegate Mangione votes no. Delegate Moon. Delegate Moon votes aye. Delegate Conaway. Delegate Conaway votes no. Delegate Woods is excused. Delegate Williams. Delegate Williams votes aye.
The chair votes aye.
And the chair votes aye, bringing the tally to 12-6-0-1-1. The motion carries.
Okay, so let's go to our concurrences really quickly. First one, House Bill 907. We voted this out, the Senate version of this out yesterday. I just want to confirm that you all we chose not to concur, but I need to make sure we have on the record the committee, the conference committee, Moon, Cardin, Ballantyne. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, do I have to have a hand vote? I need a hand vote. Some people might not like Moon, Cardin, and Ballantyne. Oh, everybody does. Okay, great. So that motion passes. Motion to concur on House Bill 130. This is the Deed Fraud Task Force.
Second.
Thank you. Are there any? Oh, and the only change that they made was they took out the Attorney General in the Senate. Are there any questions? All right, seeing none, all in favor of the motion to concur, please raise your hands. Thank you. All opposed? Thank you. Next, we have House Bill 281. This is the Child Care Providers Criminal Background Investigations. They made one little clarifying stylistic change. Thank you. All in favor? This is House Bill 281. Yep, 281. This is the criminal background investigations for child care providers. Okay. All in favor of the motion to concur, please raise your hands. Thank you. All opposed? The motion to concur passed. Okay, we're going to move now to Delegate Warman, House Bill 963. This is the Register of Will appointment of personal representatives. The Senate made some changes. They changed it to be a person of permanent resident or a person domiciled in the U.S. Are there any questions? Any? Second. Yep, 963. And I mentioned that they changed after citizen, someone who is a permanent resident and domiciled in the United States.
Okay, so my only question about that would be, so the representative has to be domiciled here, but what if the person's family or whatever still lives in their country of origin? Does it?
That's okay. This is only the personal representatives.
So they can't assign a personal representative to someone who is in their family, like let's say they had their family here, their kids here, but they moved back home. That person can no longer be their personal representative?
Unfortunately, no. I know.
I don't know if I love that.
I know. I don't love it either, but.
It's just like, that happens all the
Okay,
time.
do you want to move not to concur? Is that what we prefer? Yeah.
Yes, tell me what the sponsor said.
I spoke to the sponsor. She thinks we should. The vote in JPR was unanimous. I think if we're going to do anything.
Okay, fine.
but it's arguable.
It cuts out a huge chunk of somebody's family potentially.
Which was the point, I know.
Yeah. The whole point was to like not have to do some random person here.
I know.
All right, whatever.
I think well, whatever the group wants.
Half a loaf, motion to concur? Okay, so we have a motion to concur, and we had a second from before. All in favor of the motion to concur? Please raise your hand. I know, it's not. All opposed? All opposed? All right, the motion passed. Our very last one, this is Delegate Wilson's House Bill 1326, Child Abuse Neglect, Disclosure of Reports and Records. This has a bit of amendments that I'm going to need some help with. Oh, actually, I have it right here. I have help. Okay.
13 what?
Yep. Okay. So this is excuse me. This is House Bill 1326. The Senate made some amendments. They make the child abuse records under the bill disclosable only after a finalized finding of indicated child abuse or neglect, which seems fair. Okay? We're going to move to concur. All right, everyone in favor, please raise your hands. All right, all opposed? All right, seeing none, motion passed. We are adjourned. Thank you.